A powerful live television moment that stopped viewers in their tracks. Live television is often filled with lighthearted banter, laughter, and carefully planned conversations. But every once in a while, a moment unfolds that no producer could script, one that feels raw, honest, and deeply human. That was exactly what happened when Mark Consuelos, known to millions for his charisma and confidence, chose to speak openly about something far more personal than his career or daily routine. As cameras rolled and viewers tuned in expecting a familiar atmosphere, the tone subtly shifted. What followed wasn't dramatic in the traditional sense. There were no raised voices, no shocking visuals. Instead, there was something far more impactful: quiet honesty. Mark didn't come to alarm anyone. He didn't come to make headlines. He came to share a truth, one that many people experience but rarely feel comfortable talking about, especially in such a public space. The segment began like many others. The discussion flowed naturally, touching on everyday topics that viewers had come to enjoy. Mark appeared composed, engaged, and attentive, yet as the conversation progressed, something changed in his expression. It was subtle but noticeable. When the moment arrived, he paused. That pause spoke volumes. Rather than brushing past the subject or offering a rehearsed response, Mark chose to slow down and speak thoughtfully. He acknowledged that despite appearances, life isn't always as polished as it seems from the outside. He spoke about internal pressure, emotional weight, and the importance of recognizing when something doesn't feel right. It wasn't framed as a dramatic revelation. It was framed as a conversation, one that many people have privately but rarely out loud. Speaking openly on live television takes courage. Doing so about emotional well-being takes even more. Mark made it clear that he wasn't seeking sympathy or attention. His intention was simple: honesty. He shared that there are moments when expectations, both personal and professional, can quietly build up. Over time, that pressure can affect how a person feels, thinks, and responds to the world around them. He emphasized that these experiences don't discriminate. They can happen to anyone, regardless of success, age, or background. What made the moment resonate was how relatable it felt. There were no dramatic labels or extreme language, just a reminder that emotional challenges are part of being human. Those in the studio felt it immediately. The energy changed, not with tension, but with attentiveness. Co-hosts listened closely, offering support through their presence rather than interruption. No one rushed to fill the silence. That silence mattered. Viewers later described the moment as grounding. Instead of feeling like they were watching a show, many felt like they were listening to a real conversation between people who trusted one another. It was a reminder that live television, at its best, can reflect real life, not just entertainment. Within minutes, reactions began pouring in. Viewers across different platforms shared how meaningful it was to hear someone they admire speak honestly about emotional struggles without exaggeration or fear. Many commented that they saw themselves in his words. Some shared that they had been carrying similar feelings but didn't know how to express them. Others said the conversation encouraged them to check in with loved ones or even with themselves. What stood out most was how the moment reduced stigma. By speaking calmly and openly, Mark helped normalize conversations that are often avoided or misunderstood. The impact didn't stop with the broadcast. The conversation expanded beyond the studio, reaching households, workplaces, and online communities. People began discussing the importance of emotional awareness and the value of speaking up when something feels off. Mental well-being is often discussed in extremes, but this moment highlighted the space in between, the everyday struggles that don't always have clear labels or dramatic outcomes, yet still deserve attention. Mark's message wasn't about solutions or advice, it was about acknowledgement, and sometimes acknowledgement is the first step towards understanding. What made this story different from many headlines was its tone. There was no attempt to sensationalize the moment or turn it into speculation. Mark didn't define his experience in absolute terms, nor did he suggest that he had all the answers. Instead, he emphasized the importance of being aware, staying connected, and not ignoring internal signals. He reminded viewers that seeking support, whether through conversation, reflection, or professional guidance, is a sign of strength, not weakness. This approach resonated with many who are tired of exaggerated narratives and just want honesty. Public figures are often seen as symbols of success and stability. When someone in that position chooses to speak openly about emotional challenges, it sends a powerful message. You don't have to be perfect to be respected. Mark's willingness to share didn't diminish his image, it strengthened it. It showed vulnerability without oversharing and confidence without pretense. For many viewers, it was refreshing to see a public figure prioritize authenticity over image. Live television moves fast, segments come and go, but some moments linger because they tap into something universal. This was one of those moments, not because of shock value, but because of sincerity. Mark Consuelos didn't deliver a speech. He didn't offer a dramatic confession. He simply spoke honestly, reminding viewers that it's okay to acknowledge when things feel heavy, and that talking about it can make a difference. As the broadcast ended and regular programming resumed, the conversation didn't fade. It continued in comments, messages, and quiet reflections. Some viewers said they felt less alone. Others said they felt seen, and many appreciated that the conversation was handled with care and respect. In a media landscape often driven by extremes, this moment stood out for its balance: serious but not alarming, personal but not intrusive. At its core, this story isn't about headlines or reactions. It's about connection. It's about remembering that behind every role, every title, and every public appearance is a human being navigating life like everyone else. And sometimes the most powerful thing someone can do, especially on live television, is simply
What many
tell the
viewers
truth.
didn't immediately realize was how intentional that moment was. Mark Consuelos didn't stumble into the conversation by accident. His words carried the weight of reflection, suggesting this was something he had been thinking about long before the cameras were on. He explained that there are days when outward success doesn't match how someone feels internally. From the outside, life may appear full, busy, and rewarding, yet inside, questions can linger about balance, purpose, and emotional energy. These thoughts, he noted, don't always announce themselves loudly. Sometimes they arrive quietly and stay longer than expected. By sharing this, Mark gave voice to an experience many people struggled to explain, even to themselves. One of the most powerful parts of the conversation was his emphasis on slowing down. In a world that constantly pushes people to move faster, do more, and stay productive, Mark acknowledged how easy it is to ignore personal signals. He spoke about moments when rest feels undeserved and pauses feel uncomfortable. Over time, that mindset can create distance from loved ones, from joy, and from self-awareness. These thoughts, he noted, don't always announce themselves loudly. Sometimes they arrive quietly and stay longer than expected. Recognizing those patterns, he said, was a turning point for him. Rather than framing it as a dramatic realization, he described it as a gradual understanding, one that came from listening more closely to himself. Those sitting beside him didn't rush to respond. Their quiet attention said more than words could. It created a space where honesty felt safe, not exposed. This kind of support, listening without fixing, acknowledging without interrupting, is something Mark subtly highlighted as essential. Sometimes people don't need answers, they need space to speak. Viewers noticed this dynamic and praised how the moment was handled. It wasn't about extracting emotion for television. It was about allowing a real conversation to exist naturally. As clips from the broadcast circulated, the response continued to grow. Many viewers shared personal reflections, saying they felt understood for the first time in a long while. Others said the conversation helped them realize they weren't alone in feeling overwhelmed or emotionally stretched. What resonated most was the absence of extremes. Mark didn't portray himself as broken, nor did he pretend everything was fine. He spoke from the middle ground, a place where many people live every day. That balance made the message accessible and relatable. For years, strength has often been portrayed as endurance without acknowledgement. Mark's message quietly challenged that idea. He suggested that true strength can also mean checking in, asking questions, and being honest about internal states. By doing so publicly, he helped reshape expectations, not just for celebrities, but for anyone who feels pressure to appear okay at all times. This wasn't about vulnerability as performance, it was about responsibility to oneself and to others who might be listening. After the broadcast, discussions extended far beyond the show. Social media platforms filled with thoughtful responses rather than speculation. Fans expressed appreciation for the respectful way the topic was addressed. Some shared that the moment encouraged them to have conversations they had been avoiding. Others said it reminded them to be more patient with themselves and with the people around them. In that way, the impact of the moment wasn't fleeting, it planted seeds. Notably, Mark didn't offer advice or directives. He didn't tell viewers what they should do or how they should feel. Instead, he offered something simpler: permission. Permission to acknowledge internal challenges, permission to pause, permission to talk. Sometimes that permission is more powerful than guidance. In a media environment often driven by urgency and exaggeration, this moment stood out for its calm honesty. It reminded audiences that meaningful conversations don't need dramatic framing to matter. They need sincerity. Mark Consuelos didn't change the world in a single broadcast, but he did something equally important. He made space for a conversation many people needed to hear, delivered with dignity and care. And long after the cameras stopped rolling, that conversation continues, quietly, thoughtfully, and meaningfully.